Hello, hello, everyone. This is Russo from AMR Therapy. We are a group of psychotherapists providing therapy for individuals, couples, and families. We are all via telemedicine. We offer sliding scale. So if you or anyone you know is interested in receiving psychotherapy, we have people that specialize in all types of different populations and therapy methods. But on the side, I host conversations. And conversations, while not part of the therapy practice, I think it's important for mental health. And I invite different members of the community to come on the show. I guess I'm calling it a show now, to come on the show and share a little bit about themselves and their life experience. And hopefully, our viewers will get something out of that time. We ask also that, you feel free to ask any questions for the provider, me, or our lovely guest. And our guest today is Yessica. Hello, Yessica. How are you?
Hi, Anne. I'm doing well. I'm doing well today.
Good, good, good. Thank you so much for coming on and being with us today. Very much appreciate that.
This is fun.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. It's no pressure. It's all fun. It's all good. And as comments do come up, I will go ahead and let you know if people have comments or questions. And, we definitely invite those. I try at some point to start a watch party on my personal page, so people might come on there and ask as well. Still figuring out the logistics of that. But here we are. So, Yessica, what prompted you to decide to come on and share with us today?
Therapy is so important to me. There's not enough that I can say about how important it is to seek out a qualified therapist. And I say this, it's very, very common for people to say, I need help, and go to their medical doctor. And quite honestly, medical doctors are not always trained to support someone that has mental health needs.
Sure.
I say this, I saw a pediatrician for 3 years that did not diagnose my son with autism.
Okay. Yeah.
I was depressed with my little one, and I sat in my OBGYN's office, sat on the table face to face with him in tears, telling him that I was depressed and suicidal and needed help. And he stood quietly and watched me, but did not do a thing. He was just not the right person to do that.
Sure.
I'm quite lucky to know that he wasn't qualified for this, and I'm very lucky to have sought help elsewhere.
It is, and I appreciate, sharing that story, because oftentimes I do find that clients will go to a medical doc, like they go to their general practitioner for mental health stuff, and that while their general practitioner may be awesome and want to help, they don't have the same tools and skill set. So you're not always getting the best help that you can possibly get. And I think that that's the goal. So I really appreciate you sharing that today.
And quite honestly, most doctors, they want to help you.
Yeah.
But they're trained specifically to make sure that you're physically okay. They'll make sure that you're not in physical danger of harming yourself, that you are medically safe, and go from there. Beyond that, it's just not their wheelhouse.
Yes. And that's okay, because we need them for other things.
Absolutely.
But I say to my clients a lot of times, if they are in a situation where something like medication is appropriate, and that's not often, but if it is, I ask them to please see a specialist with psych medication, because there is nuanced differences, even if you're looking at antidepressants. That, so I always say, would you go to a podiatrist if you had a cardio problem? You just wouldn't do that, right? So
I often say you wouldn't go to an OBGYN for a toothache.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, that would be, yeah. That's great. Well, tell us a little bit of some of the work you do. Now, obviously, I put it on your little bio, introducing you a bit, but obviously, you know, like
What
you
do I
to
do?
share. What do you do?
So my passion, what I'm excited about.
Yes, yes.
I've written books and I'm working on another. I have here two of my books available on Amazon. Memoirs of a Warrior Dragon Slayer. There's room for more, as well as Uncovering My Sins. These are two that I wrote and self-published last year. The memoirs, it's my life story. And the fact that I've been through so much in life and have found ways to be positive and optimistic continually, that has been absolutely a struggle, but something that I've learned from and something that I can absolutely help others with. I have a website with resources for people that are seeking additional support. I also have just resources available, whether you need to contact the domestic violence hotline or suicide prevention hotline. Those are resources on the website.
And what is your website? Because I'd like to put it up.
Of course, it's Crushing the Chrysalis. The word crushing, like you're crushing grapes.
Yep.
And then chrysalis, the name of a butterfly's cocoon.
I know that, Yessica.
Not everyone does.
Yeah. I might have to come back to you spelling that out for me.
Oh.
But we'll put it on there. See?
We can edit that.
Yes. Okay.
You know, when I was creating the website, I did not think about how complicated it would be to tell people.
Well, it's okay. It's all right.
It was the idea, though, of crushing a chrysalis, where no matter what I've been through, no matter what trials I've been through, as a butterfly goes through that transformation, becomes something new, but still the same. It's the idea of then turning around and destroying that cage of creation. And that visual for me was powerful.
Yeah.
Spelling, those complications did not occur to me, but I'm going with it.
That's all right. It's yeah. No, I like that. I like that analogy.
Thank you. And it was something that just got more powerful as time went on. The more I was confronted with the image of butterflies, the more I learned about them. The idea that, through that transformation, when a caterpillar is goo within the chrysalis, they still have the ability to retain memories. Scientists, they like to poke at things.
Yeah.
There's been research that you can introduce pain that they would remember as butterflies. And that to me was huge.
That is.
The idea that whatever you've learned and experienced is still within you. You can still understand it, but you can still get through it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's like that is
trauma.
Yeah, exactly.
It spoke to me.
Yeah. And you said that you published 2 books last year, one being your story. What prompted you to put your story on paper or PDF or Kindle, for the world to
what
see?
Made me share it?
Yeah, what made you share it?
I have kind of taken for granted, this is my life, this is my experience, this is who I am. I'm just out doing me. Mm-hmm. But when I talk to people, I still get these reactions like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. I experienced childhood sexual trauma. I was date raped. I experienced intimate partner abuse, emotional and financial abuse. I've also been just prone to depression as I was younger because I did not understand to recognize my spiral, and I didn't have the tools to support myself at the time. Sure. Up until I was pregnant with my youngest child, who's now 13, I was a constant threat to myself. Constant threat. And I was not safe for years of my life.
What does that mean, Yessica, when you say that you weren't safe for yourself?
I mean, I could see others and I could smile and I could go about living and doing my thing. But when I was alone, the thoughts of ending my life were constant. Mm-hmm. There were weeks at a time that I contemplated harming myself. I wrote in my book about being pregnant with my youngest and actually holding a kitchen knife to my belly to end both of our lives. It was not a light time for me.
No.
And there are simple things that, like, during those times, my son would very often nudge me and remind me that I wasn't alone and that I wasn't just fighting for my life. I was fighting for ours. And during that pregnancy, there were a lot of times I'd wake up at 2 a.m. and I couldn't sleep. And I would drive to a CVS or Walgreens and sit on the floor reading greeting cards. That honestly helped save my life.
Yeah.
There were employees that were working and doing graveyard, and they were friendly because I didn't look scary. And I wasn't harming anything, and I often bought a few things on the way out the door. They were my lifeline. But that time really helped me to see where I was spiraling. It helped me to recognize that when my appetite is changing, when I can't sleep, when I can sleep way too well, when it's really hard to do simple things like brush my teeth or make a meal or take out the trash, those for me are symptoms that warn me that I'm not okay. Those are things that I look out for to see, do I need additional support? And there have been times, like you said, getting on medication. I actually went to see my medical provider because I didn't have the time to see a therapist. And she gave me medication, which absolutely helped me. But when it was time to get off the medication, I went through severe anxiety, panic attacks. My son wanted to hug me, and I was freaking out, wanting to knock him out because it was not necessarily the right medication. And I should have absolutely seen a psychiatrist and not just a nurse practitioner.
But this is something that I remember in school that was said in my first psychology class ever at Long Beach City College. They said if you have if a client has a choice between medication and therapy, and they can't do both, to do the therapy because you want to work on the underlying issue. Now, granted, my thinking has evolved, and I understand that there are some situations where it's like, okay, yes, medication is obviously necessary, but what you're describing, is a trauma reaction.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm glad that I don't live like that anymore, that I had made time to see a therapist, that I had been given the tools needed to get through that.
Well, the fact that you're able to recognize when you may be starting on that roller coaster ride, and you can say, okay, wait, these are the warning signs, and that's something that I try to bring to my clients too, is like, let's try to recognize warning signs, because you don't have to come back to this place again. You've been, but I appreciate your level of vulnerability and sharing some of this stuff right now. How, I just got to ask, like, so many people go through these things, and it's very, very hard to talk about, let alone, being willing to share publicly. So tell me what your general like, because I know this is about, philosophies of approaching and helping and healing, but I want to know.
You actually answered your question.
Pretend I didn't say a word. So yes.
So I was, after my marriage ended, I started blogging. And this was, for me, free therapy. I was experiencing my first crush in 15 years. I was and writing that open letter to finally say all the things I had never said to the man that broke my heart. I was healing. And in that healing, there was this digging deeper. And again, I was blogging. So I still don't get a lot of feedback on my website, but I can, if I choose to, look in to see what people are searching for when they find my website through analytics.
Sure.
And it was the feedback I got from that. Someone had written, "Why did my uncle commit suicide?" and found my site. And I honestly hope that they understood that this wasn't something that they could have prevented necessarily, something that they could have influenced. During that time, my darkest times, it was, I mean, they say that suicide is an act of selfishness, but I don't think people really understand that selfishness isn't, I want to take me away from the world and I want to hurt you by this, as much as I cannot think past this moment, past this feeling, and it has nothing to do with anyone else in the world. It's just this inner turmoil that is immediate, intense, overwhelming, to the point that you cannot see the next moment. You cannot see 5 minutes from now. You cannot see what your parents will look into when they come and check in you in the morning. It's not possible at that point.
No, and it's a lot of times when I've worked with people that are experiencing high levels of suicidal thought, they think they're doing their family and friends a favor.
Absolutely.
Suddenly
not being a burden, but I can't, I mean, as someone that's been there, that's gone through, that has seen the other side, as a mom, having my own children, because I didn't come with tools. I've learned those as my kids were growing up, so I've had to help them with the tools as I'm learning them.
Sure.
All 3 of my kids have at one point said, "Mom, I want to hurt myself." And I've had to become safe to talk to.
Yeah.
I've had to put my pride aside and set aside what I think they're trying to do to me, because it's not about me.
Yes.
And that's kind of where I come from with writing the books, with helping others. I know that what I've been through is a lot. I know that, even as a surrogate mother who later miscarried my own twins, the loss of infertility, pregnancy loss, that devastation.
Absolutely.
I hope that's something that I can help someone through. And that's why I write.
Well, I guarantee you that your writing and you speaking and just existing and being able to share helps people.
I hope so.
Oh, I would guarantee it with my life, because I see how people can think they're so alone, and they're not alone.
That's just it. None of us are alone. That was so interesting to me, specifically when my marriage ended, the devastation of how that transpired. I found myself in Facebook groups of couples where they were in separation and hoping to reconcile. And for the most of us, our stories were exactly the same.
Yeah.
Word for word. We could be talking and sharing each other's story without ever discussing each other's story.
Yep.
We're not alone.
We're not.
True. Human behavior is so alike. There's patterns. It's crazy.
Yep.
And we're not alone. And
yes.
we can support each other. And those that have been to the other side, not only can I stand here and hold space and say, look, there's light at this end.
Yes.
I can say, look, I'm walking here with you.
Yes.
I mean, and it's not just that. I mean, I lost my job April 1st. I was gainfully employed, and I lost my job on the same day that I lost a high school friend due to COVID-19. And last week I was having this moment of being vulnerable and sharing just how difficult it was, because I've been through a lot just in that day.
Yes.
Let alone my dad being hospitalized for, since last summer, and me taking on the majority of checking on him and visiting with him, just because my job was close to him and I could.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been intense. And at the same time, I'm thriving. Yesterday was an amazing day. And I don't even remember what I did, aside from the nap. The nap was pretty good. But finding places and areas of strength and growth and being able to look at things differently. I was laid off from a job. They're literally paying me to stop showing up at a place that I was being re-traumatized. There's blessings in that.
Yeah. And I think that's a piece. Like, I was talking to my partner the other day, and I said, I'm not unhappy right now. Things are very hard, and I feel the stress of that. And I think about other people experiencing things that are equally as challenging, more challenging, just challenging in general. And my heart goes out to them. Right. But somehow there's still some joy to find in all of this. And I think that we have to do that. We have to be able to find the points of joy, even in the points of challenges.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's I find that life is balanced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's always something positive to go with the negative, and there's just a sliver of positivity, of negativity buried within the positive. There's always balance.
There is.
It's a matter of looking at all sides, a matter of checking in with yourself, being honest. Am I okay with this? Am I not okay with this? Part of my moment last week was I was offered a job that was an entry-level position, paid well as a contracted employee, and I turned it down. And that to me was a huge victory, because I know that I'm not entry-level. I know that I would have been in this position where I was lowering my expectation of myself, and letting go of that, no matter how well it paid, felt empowering. And that's a big part of personal growth. It's checking in with yourself and seeing realistically, am I doing okay? Am I doing what is right for me, or am I doing what other people think I should be doing? Now,
Yes.
If you are in crisis and other people think you shouldn't harm yourself, go with that. Believe that.
Yes.
Trust that, even if you're not doing it.
Sure.
But when it comes to things like going back to school, are you doing it for you, or are you doing it for someone else? Yeah. If you're deciding things like a career move, does it serve you? Does it serve someone else? When you're looking at your wardrobe, I had just before the layoff, I was going to work, and for about a week or so before the layoff, my wardrobe entirely changed. And I realized I was dressing like an abuse victim. I was dressing like someone that was supposed to not be seen, not be acknowledged. And I got to change that. And my walk shifted.
Yeah.
The way I walked into the office shifted, because there was this confidence of, this is who I am. And I forgot. And I didn't even realize I was still acting like that.
But having the insight, it
was empowering.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Yessica, we're having a little challenge with the connection.
The insight I've had to work on.
But it takes time for all of us.
Oh, it does. And it's not just time. You can't say that time heals everything. You know this.
Of course.
That trauma will wait for you to deal with it.
Yep. That's truth.
It takes internal work. It takes discussion and relationship.
So speaking of...
Can you hear me at all, Anne?
I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you. You're freezing up a little bit, but we can still hear you okay. So when you're talking...
Oh, you were freezing a little bit.
Oh, no. How are we doing over there? Okay.
Are you there?
I am. We having a little technical malfunction here. How are we doing? We okay?
I'm good on my end. I can hear you. There's a little bit of distortion, but I can hear you.
Okay. So talk about, like, if there was some information that you really wanted people to know about your work and passion, what would that be?
I guess the biggest part is that it's all about perspective and deciding that you don't have to do what you did yesterday. I find that a lot is we're often sticking to what was comfortable without realizing that it's really not that comfortable, which is why we're unhappy. And my very common thing is, you're not a tree. You can get up and leave. You can pack up and go. You can change course. Because that's one of those things that is very, very hard to unlearn. We do things the way that we've done them before. And I'm sure you understand this with behavior patterns.
Sure.
As a child, you learn certain things as a child, and as you grow, it takes a lot for you to decide, I don't have to do it that way anymore.
Yes.
I had this experience a couple of years back. I wanted to go to the beach, and a friend of mine suggested I go to Zuma Beach. And I said, okay, I'll go to Zuma Beach. And I planned it the way I always planned beach trips, meaning I go at the crack of dawn, earlier than I want to wake up, and I sit and bake in the sun all day long. And I planned for this. So I packed up my stuff and I drove out way earlier than I wanted to. And I sat there and I kept thinking, is this it? Because I'm kind of bored. And I was looking around wondering, what am I supposed to do now? You know, usually I went with a whole group of people and it was just me by myself. And then it occurred to me, I didn't have to stay. A beach trip can be as long or as short as you want it to. It can be in the morning, it can be at night, it can be at any time. Yeah. And so I packed up from the beach and I started driving home. And as I was driving from Zuma back to LA, there were so many beaches that through the years I had wanted to stop at, but I was always with, you know, my ex-husband or friends, and that wasn't where we were going, so we never stopped. And that day I stopped at every single beach that I was in the mood to stop at. It was incredible. It was incredible. And it was so liberating. And that day I realized I can go to the beach whenever I want to.
That's right. Any beach.
And it was, exactly. And it was incredible. And it wasn't that I needed to pack a lunch to go to the beach. I can decide I was done after an hour and go get lunch somewhere.
That's right.
I can sit at a restaurant by myself. I no longer had this idea that, like with other things, going to restaurants, I always felt like you had to go with someone. You couldn't just go by yourself, until I learned that, yeah, you really can.
That's right.
And I love that. I can go to a restaurant where I'm literally paying for someone to treat me like they want me to be there. And they do.
They do want you to be there, yeah.
They make sure that my glass is filled. They ask to make sure that everything is exactly as I want it. I can sit at a table by myself, order whatever I want to eat, and if I don't feel like eating and the food sits there, no one's going to give me a hard time about it. It's amazing. And for the longest time, I thought restaurants had to be gone to as couples or more, and I was so wrong about that.
So there was like a program that was running. There's oftentimes a program that is running that doesn't necessarily serve us anymore. And it's recognizing the program and going, wait a minute, I don't have to follow this program. How do I start empowering myself to do something different? You know? So it's a very light bulb moment when you realize what you didn't know before, but was always kind of there. Yeah. Yeah. So
absolutely.
What would you say would be like, you know, your biggest, like the biggest, like what's the thing that you want people to take away from us talking today? And I'm going to ask you a few more questions. We're not quite done yet. So you're still on the hot seat, but
the biggest thing, that thing meant to break you wasn't to break you as much as something that wasn't serving you anymore. Mm-hmm. And then I think that's the big thing. No matter what I've been through, that tried to break me. You know, there's that thought of it only made you stronger. I wouldn't just say that these things made me stronger. They made me look at things differently. Mm-hmm. They made me focus not just on what's happening, but everything around what's happening. Call it PTSD. I'm going to look at what's in front of it, what's behind it, what's around it, what are the consequences. I'm pre-planning these things out, and that has absolutely supported me at times. That hypervigilance of walking on eggshells and not knowing what's safe and what's not safe means I'm looking around at everything. Mm-hmm. And that's become a superpower. You know, it's become something that's absolutely helped me to see things that other people don't notice. And as much as that situation might have been set up to destroy me, it's only given me more tools to get through it.
That is truth. No, that is absolute truth.
Yeah. I mean, with this layoff, I was okay with the layoff before they even finished the conference call. I was. As much as, and of course there are ripples, sure. And those ripples are things like the relationships that you had with people.
Sure.
and just how you would have done things differently if you were still having access to email and Slack, what you might have said, and making peace with the fact that closure comes from within. Those are definite things that still ripple, but at the same time, knowing that what I was prepared for years ago have gotten me through now, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. It absolutely makes sense. You were able to use past experiences, challenging, easy, to help you cope with any current circumstances that are happening to you today, or that happened today.
Yeah.
So what would you say?
Absolutely.
What would you say are your strengths? I love these questions because people are not great at complimenting themselves. And I feel like, hey, come on, like, hey, we're all awesome. We all have our strengths.
I find that if you can't recognize your strengths, it's really, really hard to expect other people to. So I've had to learn this one too. I'm resilient, resourceful, adaptable, beautiful.
Yes. Yes.
And at the same time, compassionate. I have so much heart for so many people. And there are times that I feel overwhelmed and just I can't help everyone. And there are times that I don't know if I want to give my energy to that. Like the people that send me messages from the other side of the world that I've never met on Facebook and they want me to help them. Those I kind of draw the line at.
Yeah. I've been getting a lot of those lately too.
Same.
Yeah.
That's where my line is. That's my boundary. But other than that, it's not hard to open up my heart for other people. It's not hard to jump on a call and say, how can I help you in this moment? How can I support you? It's not hard to remind someone the amazing things they have going for them and how supported and loved they are, even if they can't feel it. Those are my superpowers. Those are my strengths.
Yes, I love it, love it, love it. And and I love hearing this because so far, every person that has come on to talk with me has something similar, and we need this because I think it's easy to get caught up in negativity, or we see bad actors in the world, and we just forget that there are so many people out there that want to be support and be loving and kind and open and share that, have that reciprocity in relationships. So it's really great to be able to hear that. So thank you so much for sharing.
Well, that was one of those personal battles, honestly, coming from, again, domestic violence, coming from emotional abuse. I've been called many, many names that weren't those things. I've been made to feel like I was worthless. I was called a nigger in front of my son by someone that once said that he loved me. I was called ugly, terrible mother, all sorts of things, by the woman that my ex-husband started seeing. My ex-husband had told her many, many things about me. And our marriage ended without any warning. I didn't even know we were having problems. And I took a real serious hit.
Sure.
So being able to turn around and say, no, I'm amazing, I've worked for that. And I'm okay with it because I am pretty amazing. I would date me. I would marry me.
but that's the kind of love that I would love for all people to see within themselves. And you don't just get there overnight, and that's the whole thing. Like you said, like this was a work in progress. It wasn't like you just all of a sudden thought you were great one day. Like it took time to get into that space, but you did it.
But at the same time, it's as much of a challenge it was. Imposter syndrome wouldn't be a thing if it didn't exist.
Sure.
But it comes from realizing that I'm more than what I look like. Mm-hmm. I'm more than what I do. I'm more than what I have. And it comes from understanding who you are in your relationships. Mm-hmm. And there are relationships that are only there because someone needs something from you. I won't sugarcoat it. There are
That's true. Sure.
And there are those people that, they like you when it's convenient. But there are the people that also seek you out at random times because they were thinking of you. And they don't need anything other than say, I was thinking of you. I miss you.
Yep.
And it's okay if you're busy. I still miss you.
Yep.
Those are huge gifts.
Yes,
huge
they are.
gifts. And it's those moments that stretch out and meet each other. And as they're meeting, it just becomes this whole boundary around who you thought you were, separating that from who you really are. And it's the matter of owning that, and not brushing it off. And it comes from little things, like someone saying, hey, let me hold this door open for you.
Yeah.
You don't grab it and say, no, I got this. You have to accept that gift you were given. If someone wants to buy you a drink, you get to say thank you and accept it. And just know that they wouldn't offer it unless they wanted to.
I love that. And yes, intentionality. That just makes me think of, when people, and of course, I understand that this is a choice and I'm not putting anyone down who doesn't, but if, sometimes if you see a homeless person, someone might say, I don't want to give to a homeless person because they're going to go do this or that or this with that. But it's like, is it really about what the homeless person is going to do with it? Or is it about what your intention is giving it? And just trying to live your life.
Love.
Yeah. Like living with love.
It's living with unconditional love. And that is really hard for anyone to imagine. So I usually bring it up talking about my kids. I spoil them as much as I can. And sometimes they don't appreciate it. And sometimes, kids with autism, they tend to break things at times. And it's not a matter of I want to destroy it as much as I need to pull it apart as I'm self-soothing. I've lost countless things, had to replace them. And I've learned that it's not in what they do with what I give them, but the joy I get in giving to them. What it makes me feel when I give them the things that they want, when I'm showing them how much I love them. It's not do they receive it, but how good I feel in giving it. And when you can come from that place, that intentional place, it feels different.
There's a question here for you. What advice would you give to young women that are struggling to see their value outside of being objects of desire and productivity? It's a great question.
That is a solid question.
Yes.
Take other people out of the equation. Something I do from time to time, I actually, most of the time when I don't have my kids, is walk around my house naked. When I can stand in front of my mirror and in complete nakedness, no one's around, and feel perfect love, that's when I feel empowered. And when I'm saying this, I'm a mom. I've carried my 3 children. I've also been a surrogate mother, gave birth to 4 other children, and I miscarried my twins. I have the body of a mom that's brutalized my body that way. There are stretch marks. I have dark skin with light little spots because that's what pregnancy has done to my skin. I've got like white freckles all over my body. I've got stretch marks and love handles and scars from my C-section, from my gallbladder removal. And I look at my body as unidealistic as it may be to magazine editors. And I look at how powerful it is to have given so much life. The fact that it is able to sustain the physical and emotional abuse that I have, and I'm still here. The fact that there are so many times that I had put my own life at risk, and I'm still here. And I celebrate the gift that is my body. Whether or not I'm having a rough day and I hate myself, whether or not I'm having a day where I'm angry with the world, or I'm feeling perfect love, or I'm happy or sad, I find a way to love the fact that my body is here, that it's always been here. And it has nothing to do with anyone else. I mean, for the year or two after my marriage ended, I was going to Victoria's Secret once a month and buying myself a matching bra and panty set, not seeing anyone. This was entirely for me. Because there were times when I wanted to wear something in front of the mirror. And this was just totally celebrating me and my body. Now, if someone wants to say, you need to look a certain way for me, I want to know what it is you're doing for me, I'm looking at them thinking, I want you to take out taxes and pay me significantly because you're asking for a job. You're asking for an exchange. This isn't love. This isn't romance. This is bartering. And at that point, I'm doing so much better standing at home looking in my mirror. That's not the kind of relationship you want. It is, I mean, think about the other person. And I guarantee you, they're not meeting all of your needs. Whether it's a job, whether it's a spouse, they're not meeting all of your needs. It's impossible for someone else to meet all your needs. That's an inside job.
Yes.
So whether they're complaining about your looks, how do they look? Whether they complain about your housekeeping and cooking skills, how are they supporting you? Whether it's a complaint about how much or how little money you're bringing in, what are they doing to pay your bills? Do you ever want? Because that says a lot right there.
I think, like you said, you know, being an inside job, I think that is so true. You know, the work, we do that work for ourselves. And it may not be easy, but if you're looking for someone else to help you feel good about who you are, then they could take it away just as easily as they could give it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, no matter who's been in and out of my life, and they go, I'm still here.
That's right. That's right.
And I'm still celebrating everything that this body has done for me. I'm celebrating whether or not I can expertly apply makeup, which usually I can't.
I don't even try. I don't even try.
Believe me, this staying home thing, my personal hygiene is taking a dive. And I'm okay with it.
That's okay. So what do you think are some things that you see, you know, improving for yourself? Like what are some things that you're like, you know, part of my journey is working on this still. I still have this in me.
That was my struggle last week, which I'm still struggling with. And it's this whole feeling of accepting less than I feel is in alignment with my goals and it's good enough. And for me, that was a job last week. Last year, it was a relationship. I was seeing a guy that was very much not interested in the same things I was. His idea of being in a relationship was very different from mine, and I kept settling for that. And that's something that I'm still working on. It's not easy for me. The relationships I'd always had in high school and outside of high school, in marriage, the ones modeled by my mom and dad, they weren't healthy. I'm starting from scratch and starting very, very slowly.
That's okay.
It is. And right now, I keep saying this, I'm working on creating t-shirts to sell on my website. One of them says, appetizers over dating. Exactly how I feel right now.
I love it. I know it's the dating apps are very fascinating, but I think we could have a whole show on that, on the dating apps.
It's the fastest way to make my emotions take a nosedive. For me, it's very hard to spark an intellectual conversation. Because, like I said, I'm beautiful.
Right. There you go.
And it's very, very easy to find someone that is looking for entertainment for that night, that moment. It's very easy to run into married men who need something to make them feel better about their current situation in their marriage. And they don't understand that idea, me dating a married man, makes me physically ill because of what happened in my marriage.
Sure.
I just couldn't. So for me, it's just not a priority. One day, maybe, just not today, because I got cheese in the fridge.
Hey, it's all good. But that's the whole thing, right? That self-love and, you know, continuing to work on building healthy relationships and romantic relationships. Things come when you're ready.
When it's time.
Yep, exactly.
It will. And right now I'm working on my next book. I'm working on adding clothing and coffee mugs to my website. Oh,
Love
and
it.
this one.
I got it. Yes. Oh, I gotta see
I've got a
this.
coffee mug I'm working on. One side says Cougar Crossing, and the other side says Where's Mama's Sugar?
Oh, I love it. You are too. You know what? Oh my gosh, you're great.
Oh, but I tried dating someone younger. It's not my thing. I just think it's hilarious. You know?
Yeah. But hey, that's all right. That you find what works for you, and just be honest about that.
And that's just it. It's I've learned specifically with my kids. I learned this lesson with my kids. The labels that people give you, whether it's autism, whether it has to do with where you flow on on that on gender identity, you know, all of that. Those definitions aren't for the people being defined. Saying you're a depressed person isn't about you being depressed as much as the people around you that need to understand how to approach you.
That is so true. And that's, I try so hard to talk about that with my clients too. Like, we don't have to say you're depressed, but like, you might be experiencing symptoms of depression. Let's look at this.
And things cycle.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no such, it doesn't stay in one state.
No.
What you're experiencing will change in a matter of hours or days, and it will shift.
For all of us.
Yeah. And sometimes you've got to start that shift. There was one night I was so close to the edge and wanted to harm myself. And I reached out to a family friend. And she said, I'm not qualified to help you. You should call someone else, and hung up. And I went from depression to anger, 2 seconds flat. And I did not harm myself that night because I was so pissed at her, and I didn't understand that she was giving me an honest answer. I didn't understand that she didn't know how to approach that. And I felt rage, and I didn't harm myself.
But those are, it's interesting to hear you say that piece too, because people don't know how to deal with things like that because these are the hush hush things. But self-harming behavior or thoughts of harming yourself are very, they're much more common than people think, but we don't talk about it. As a matter of fact, when we, as a therapist, we have to give a disclaimer that if there's a concern of you harming yourself or others, we're allowed to break HIPAA law.
Absolutely.
But I say to my clients, because I think this is very, very important, if you tell me you're feeling this way, it doesn't mean I'm going to hang up on you and go call the hospital or the police. My role is to hear you through that experience and work on helping you set up appropriate support systems. Maybe we bring family or friends into this. We work together as a group. Absolutely. If we need to.
I've never had a therapist turn their back on me.
No, and so it's never. It's very rare that someone's getting sent to the hospital, but I think that there's a lot of times, unfortunately, that people are afraid to say how they're really feeling because they have a fear of that happening to them. And there's so much portrayal of it on television that just is so convoluted. And I think, oh no, please, please, I hope people don't see this and think this is what happens, and I guess that's part of being here with you too,
Absolutely. Like to speak on that, last week I made a very vulnerable post talking about how I was doing. And it was talking about the symptoms that I had experienced that let me know that I needed that. And it also included what I plan to do to get out of the spiral. And these things worked. They absolutely did. But I had a flood of concern from so many people that I love, that love me too. Yes. And they wanted to know that I was okay. And I felt, even though I wasn't, I felt an obligation to say that I was. And it's this feeling of guilt for not being okay. And believe me, I talked to the right people. I got in a really, really good headspace after that. I was even approached by people that said, hey, I've got this program I can sell you, which is not what I needed to hear at the time.
No. So you weren't interested in purchasing a program?
Coaching, it's something that I'm lucky enough to know a lot of inspirational people. And they're going through their own thing right now.
Of course.
With COVID-19 and trying to pivot their careers. I understand needing to find clients, but that wasn't right time.
There's a right time. Exactly. Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But again, it was this expectation that I should be okay for these people because I showed them the parts that hurt. They need to know that I'm okay, and I should let them know I'm okay. And that's something that I hope to never make my kids feel. When they're coming to me, they need to feel safe and saying that this is how I feel. And that means I also tell them, look, mom's having a day today. And I was very honest with my kids. I said, mom's been depressed. And I'm going to show you, this is what it looks like when I'm depressed. And I also said, it really helps me that you're here and that I can steal a hug whenever I need it. And it helps me that I'm baking stuff for you and you guys are eating it. and it helps me to sing and dance like a crazy person in the house and that you're laughing at me.
But that is fantastic, because I think that if we're able to first process and understand our emotions, and then once we're able to do that, then we can ask for what we need appropriately from the people around us, right?
Absolutely.
And you can share, I'm not in a great space, but if we can sing and dance and continue our day, like, it's all good. I can be my authentic emotion, and you can provide whatever you're able to provide for me, but this is what support looks like for me in this moment, right? So it's conversing.
It is.
And it's honest and authentic conversing.
Yeah. And it's, you have to, I wasn't given coping skills from my parents in that way. They had their own stuff to deal with. My dad, I grew up with him having PTSD from Vietnam. My mom has a childhood she will never speak about. I can only imagine what that means. And so when I was growing up, they seemed strong. They seemed like they had it together, but they didn't teach me how they did that. So as I was growing up and experiencing the things that I experienced that they've never experienced and wouldn't know how to approach, I had to figure it out on my own. And my goal is to teach my kids, to teach others that no, there are tools. And these tools can help you, and it's okay to use them, and it's perfectly fine to ask for help.
Yep.
Always ask for help. Don't stop asking for help. And if you're not getting it from one person, there are other people.
Yes. And which brings,
if you're wrong fit with your therapist, you can find another one.
Absolutely. That's one of the first things that we say when you call AMR therapy, is we describe how services work, because we have a lot of people that are new to therapy and have some fear of what that might look like. But if this doesn't work, or if your therapist is not a good fit, that's all good. Don't even worry about it. Like, if hopefully maybe we can find someone else that fits your needs better, or, here's some resources to go elsewhere, because this is your time and your money, and we want you to be the best you can be. And if something's not working for you, that's advocating for yourself. And advocating for yourself is something that you would learn in therapy if you don't already have that skill set. So, like, I see that as a win if someone's able to speak up for themselves and say, this doesn't really work for me. And, when I talk to clients, my own clients, we work on a treatment plan together. But I encourage, Anne, you said we were going to do this, but you're going over here. I really need to talk about this. I don't feel like we're full. I want that, because that helps me know that they're growing, So,
I mean,
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask. Go ahead.
Well, it's this idea of valuing, who are you putting first? By saying that you're okay and letting the conversation go where it needs to, led by the other person, you're not putting yourself first. And it's not just that I'm in therapy and this is my money. You're in therapy because you are doing your best to make sure that you're saving your life. You're doing what's needed to make sure that you're guiding your life where it needs to be, so that you're happy and healthy and whole. And when it comes to your time, you'll never get that back. I mean, and when you are feeling like you don't value your time, think about your job. I was getting paid a significant amount of money to do a small portion of what I'm able to do. And that alone, how much they were willing to pay me for a tiny, tiny fraction of what I can do, that's, to me, was the biggest perspective shift. Because if I looked at the entire ability, like scale of ability that is within me, and I added the value of what they were paying me for, if I actually did the math, which I'm not going to because I'm not a math person, I would be underselling myself significantly. And that is what your time is worth.
I love it.
That is what, in relationship, at work, whether you are standing in line somewhere that you don't want to be, reading a book that you're not into, stop reading it. Change books.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to watch a movie? Change the movie.
Yes. Yes. Empowering everybody out there. I love it. So the one of the last questions I have for you is there any coping skills, and I like to ask this because I feel like there are so many ways to cope.
Yeah.
Is there any coping skills that you use or would suggest for other people to try, especially during, this time right now?
Right now, rather than there being just this idea of I'm going to be hurt, it's this fear of anxiety. And for me, I've experienced anxiety on lots of levels, so I've got tools. Sure. And it can be something like, it's a disconnect. When you're in your head, you're disconnected from your body. Mm-hmm. You are racing thoughts towards what's going to happen, sure, what might happen, what's already happened, and how it's affecting you tomorrow. Yep. And it's important to get right back in your body. I've tried things like citrus fruit, just a fresh citrus fruit, biting directly into it like it's like an apple. You do this with a lemon, you will shock yourself back into place. I've done things where I kept silly putty and Play-Doh at my desk because that tactile behavior, mm-hmm, the smell, mm-hmm, of the Play-Doh, playing with the Play-Doh, it helped to get me back into something where I can actually think clearly on one thing at a time instead of my brain branching out. M&Ms, literally taking one at a time and peeling off the shell with my teeth will help me focus on just that. The smell of the chocolate will get me back into the present.
You're speaking my language on this. 100%. Yes. Present.
It's being present. I wasn't a cutter in high school, but there were times that I was ready to harm myself. Red electrical tape. My dad kept it at the house. He kept like a bunch of different colors. Red electrical tape that I would tape on my skin, just small little strips intentionally, mm-hmm, and ripping them off one at a time. Because I was a bit of a chicken shit and didn't want to actually harm myself, but it did hurt, and it did what I was hoping to do at the time.
See, and I think it's, it's like learning, and then you learn to identify, because that is basically when you're looking at self-harm at that level, mm-hmm, it's the inability to identify the emotion that's happening inside of you, that you want that physical release of that emotion. You didn't exactly. Yeah. So it's like being able to be in a space where you can have the words, and then you can say, okay, I'm feeling this. Mm-hmm. I'm going to move through this, and then I'm going to redirect myself into the present. And I like chocolate. I use that one a lot. There's a whole video with me with someone else eating chocolate about doing it just like this. So I love anything that's present-minded, all the senses.
Going outside, yeah, feeling the sun on my skin, and actually being present with what I'm experiencing. Mm-hmm. Whether I'm feeling the sun on my face, the breeze on my skin, what am I smelling in the air? How am I feeling in this moment? If there's tension in my body, what is clenched? And usually it's my calves. Sometimes it's my stomach. Sometimes it's my back. And when I feel it's clenching, clench it harder and then release. Connected.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my I do have one last question, because I know we could probably talk on for a while, but it is 8:00. Tell me, I have a feeling where I know where this is going to go, but books, quotes, movies that you would recommend?
The one that I'm most recently moved by. I'm still trying to get through it, and it's very, very technical. But not technical anyway. It's called Course of Control. Are you familiar with that one? I'm sure you are.
No, I'm not. I'm the worst at remembering book names anyway.
It's kind of like my stand, so sorry as I'm moving the laptop around. But this one.
Course of Control.
Yeah, and this is by Evan Stark. It's how men entrap women in personal life. My last time seeing a therapist was in December. It was just a one session because I thought I was going crazy. I was explaining how situation with my boss was feeling like abuse.
Yeah.
How my power was limited, how I was micromanaged. And as I'm going through the different things that I was experiencing, she said, I want you to pick up this book. And as I'm reading this book about how power is used to control, not even covertly, not even overtly, I mean, just covertly, just small little things, microaggressions.
Sure.
It gave me such peace of mind because I realized I am not crazy. This is, it's not that he was trying to gaslight me specifically, but in essence, that's what he was doing. And it helped me to realize that these things that I was experiencing, while they might not have been intentional, it was absolutely what I was feeling. And it's just a way that people learn how to adapt in their world.
Yes.
I don't think that he was trying to be hurtful. I think this is just what he's used in the past to get what he needed done. And it's just what our society's built on. But being able to see it and identify it has absolutely helped me.
So I'll put that up, or you can feel free to put that up also, because I like to, provide our audience with different books or music that's really helped and moved them. So thank you for sharing. And thank you so much, Yessica, for coming on today and sharing a little bit about your story and helping people. And, I hope that I'm sure people got things out of it. I see lots of love and questions. And so thank you again. And if anybody has any further questions or wants to ask Yessica anything, you can feel free to reach her at, your website name again.
It's Crushing the Chrysalis. It's Crushing, CrushingChrysalis.com.
And show us your books.
That was a little bit fast.
No. Show us your books one more time, please.
These are available on Amazon. It's Memoirs of a Warrior Dragon Slayer. There's Room for More. And Uncovering My Sins, both by Yessica Reedy on Amazon. And there's a link to my website through my author page.
Thank you again, Yessica.
Thank you. As soon as I'm off, I'll actually look at the video and be able to add my link and stuff.
Oh, perfect. And thank you everybody for joining us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye.